you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday, July the 23rd, 2024 edition of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr., and I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. And at the very top, we thank you for tuning in and listening to today's program. Now, we would love for you to be a part of today's program, and you can do that by calling this number, 516-453-9921. And if you have a question or comment that you would like for Mr. Fuller to address, just press the number 1 button, as Blacktop has done right off the top, so that we can get Mr. Fuller to answer your question. Now, if you are a first-time caller, be sure to press that number 1 button and just wait until you are acknowledged, and then give the call screener give a person, because we don't really have a call screener, but whoever answers the phone, give them your name, and so that I can properly give you an introduction. Now, if you would not like to do that, you can also access the program and have me answer your question by my Gmail address, which is the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, MrBobby, @gmail.com. I will get your Gmail. Usually I give you an acknowledgement that I have it. And at some point in time when the call volume is a little slow, a Gmail will be read and then have Mr. Fuller address your question. You can also do this. You can also join the chat room by going to blogtalkradio.com, and then you click on where it says programs, and then the program menu will come up, and you want the list of shows, which the show you want is the Produce Justice show. Then when you get that, then you just click on that, and then the chat room becomes available to you, and then there you go. Generally, there are some interesting conversations that go on in the chat, but please, ma'am, please, sir, do not use the chat to ask me a question to ask Mr. Fuller. That's not going to work in this particular format. But occasionally, something of interest will come up, and I will formulate my own question based on what is being said in there, and then have Mr. Fuller address that occasionally. And then sometimes I will read a direct quote from somebody in there, making sure that I give you the credit for the statement that is being made. Okay. All right, let's see, that's out the way. Oh, yes, anybody in Chicagoland, please, if you know of the Extermination Man, give the Extermination Man our new platform address. Tell him he has a priority status to call in anytime he wants to. I say that because there are many that miss him when Mr. Fuller and myself were on another radio format, which was at talktainmentradio.com, and he would call in regularly and give his predictions, and people started to like him, so they asked about him. So if anyone in Chicagoland in particular knows of him, just make sure that he tunes into our program, and he can call in and get established with that. The book that Mr. Fuller references is a book that we encourage you to get by going to producejustice.com, and that is simply the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. Please, ma'am, please, sir, make sure that you get that book. It's really an instruction manual of suggestions on what to do to fight racism, which is white supremacy. You need it, or you may not need it, and some things may not exactly be relevant to you, but if it is, these are just suggestions on how to deal with that. Okay, I think that is all that I have to do, so let's get on with the program. Okay, let me start off by saying good morning, Mr. Fuller. How are you?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
Okay, and here we go right off the bat. We have a section of the program that we have the thoughts and expressions that are on the mind of Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. Mr. Fuller, today being Tuesday, the 23rd of July, 2024, what is on your mind that you would like to open up today's program with?
I don't know where this fits in, but this is what's been on my mind. And I do know that it fits in, but in what context and what am I talking about in connection with what the subject matter is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But this is what's on my mind. And it comes in the form of a lady that works on a job, the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, that I was working on back in the 1980s here in Washington, D.C. And it was a situation where she came up to me and she was asking me some questions. I don't remember exactly what the questions were, but it was a brief conversation we were having, and she was asking me about something that she was trying to do. And I thought about it, and I said, well, from what you're describing that you want to do, I'm pretty certain they, whomever they were, are not going to let you do that. You're not going to be able to do that. I can tell you right now. I remember I gave her a brief and right to the point answer. And I said, they're not going to let you do that. And her response, and this is what gets to the core of what's on my mind, for whatever reason there is, maybe it's the timing and what's going on in the world, and I'm quite sure it has some connection with it. But her response was very simple and something that I've heard in different ways all down through the years. Her response was, when I said, they're not going to let you do that. I'm pretty certain they're not going to let you do that. And then she said something that's been on my mind and periodically resurfaces over and over again, even though I'd heard the same thing said in many forms. Somehow this is like I heard it for the first time when I said, they are not going to let you do that. And her response was, I'll ask God to help me. Very simple, very straightforward. I remember her name to this day because she had on a badge with her name on it. Zenobia Davis. I'm going to repeat her name because I think it's important for some reason. Because she's passed on now. That was back in the 1980s. It wasn't what she said. I'd heard that in different forms. I mean, oh, the Lord this and the Lord that and God this. I hear that from
everywhere, all my life, in my grandmother's house. But the way she said it, when I said, ma'am, they're not going to let you do that. I'm pretty certain that they're not going to let you do that. She said, I'll ask God to help me. That stuck with me. The way she said it. It's like I'd never heard it before in any form or any reference. But the way she said it, Miss Zenobia, spelled with a Z, Davis. I didn't remember people's names. I was looking at people's names and badges, all the time. Because the place where I worked was a security place. So they always wore badges with their names on them. But the way she said it, was like a child. It stood out to me. For some strange reason, that's been on my mind lately with all this chaos going on. Gunfire in the month of July, where you have the 4th of July with what? Fireworks. Working all over the world as we speak right now. Gunfire. Right now, homeboys, we say, is putting that clip in that 9mm pistol. And his plan for today is to kill somebody. That's going on somewhere right now. In his vehicle, going around the block, near a playground, looking for somebody he's going to kill. You can almost bet on it. Right now, somewhere, Chicago, Brazil, 4th of July, fireworks. You can't tell the fireworks from somebody working with fire to kill somebody. Somebody from the Middle East is going to have a talk with somebody else today, right here in Washington or someplace from overseas in the Middle East. So-called dignitaries coming to talk about fireworks. People being killed, whether to stop it or keep doing more of it. I'll ask God to help me. What are you going to ask your Creator to help you do today? She said it like a child. It stunned me. Just that simple phrase, the way she said it, was like a child. That's what's on my mind.
Okay. And a child shall lead them. All right, that's what's on your mind. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Now let's commence with the calls. Got to make a correction from last week. Ross Amin wrote me, Mr. Fuller, and he wanted to make a correction. And this is what he said. This is a Gmail. He said this. He said, I wanted to make a correction to what was shared last week concerning my email, I guess he meant Gmail question, about my upbringing as a non-white black male. My mother is white, and my now deceased father was a black male victim of white supremacy racism, as I am as well. I was raised by my white mother without my black father. My white mother allowed a white man to mentally and physically harm, mistreat, and hit me. There was confusion when my email and question was read. Mistakenly said my mother is black. Thank you for eliminating any confusion. He wanted to eliminate and on code Ross. I mean, he wanted to make sure that correction was made, Mr. Fuller, when he wanted you to address that in that particular situation. His mother, he said, my white mother, without my black father, my white mother allowed a white man to mentally and physically harm, mistreat, and hit me.
So he had a black father to start
yes.
with.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, he and his black father, the mother, the white mother, was separated from the black father and took on as a second husband a white man
who was abusive to him. And I hear music in the background. I don't know what that's from. But anyway, go ahead, Mr. Fuller.
Well, yes, I understand. And he wanted to make that clear.
Yes.
Okay.
He wanted to make that clear because he didn't want to bring about confusion, in his presentation to the question as pertaining to the fact that you did answer his question. He wanted to be clear to the listening audience that what was going on. I still hear that music in the background. I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe someone on the other end can correct that or eliminate that so we can get the calls in. But anyway, it's not on my end either, so somewhere in the control room could hopefully eliminate that so we can get through here. Yes, I don't know. Okay. Anyway, Mr. Fuller, so how would you address that, being that he clarified the situation, that it was a white father who abused him?
Well, it's under the system of white supremacy, so it should be expected. The white supremacy system is set up for people to be mistreated, regardless of where the mistreatment comes from. It glorifies mistreatment. The history books is all about mostly the history of mistreatment. And if you look, I look at books from all kinds of books, TV programs and whatnot, and everything comes across as mistreatment of people is fun, because all creatures desire fun. And in the system of white supremacy, destroying people, eliminating people, harming people in every conceivable way is great entertainment. And not just harming black people, which is what my book is all about and what this program is all about, getting rid of the system of white supremacy and replacing it with justice. That's the focus. But the system of white supremacy itself, in essence, well, if there's not any black people around, let's Cain and Abel. I killed my own brother and then glorify in it, brag about it. Maybe that's the genesis. That's where it started, like in the Christian Bible, King James Version. And maybe that's why that is. Bloodshed. Mm-hmm. We love it. We love it. Have been taught systematically. Everybody all over the planet, in particular, accelerated under the system of racism, because I don't think anybody has bragging rights. Because I don't think there's any tribe where somebody wasn't going around harboring ideas and then carrying it through to fruition, killing. Got to kill somebody. Wake up in the morning, go to bed at night. Can I write a book about how to kill somebody? Can I climb up on a roof after some thorough planning and go out in a blaze of glory by killing somebody? My name might appear in a history book somewhere. That's what I want. I had breakfast this morning, but that's not, breakfast, well, that's boring. If I kill somebody now, that's exciting. We're all taught that. I mean, in elementary school. Children, this is all about the Civil War. How can a war be civil? You're talking about killing people. No such thing as a civilized war. We need to pay attention to things, but we are so born into it, we think that that's natural. Only 860 people killed in this city last year. That's down from 750. What? It's supposed to be zero everywhere, all over the world. Somebody talking about killing somebody should be, what? What is he talking about? A person killing a person? A person killing a person that he or she did not create? And then you think that you got the arrogance that you can't put a person together, you didn't put yourself together. And then you know how well put together a person is? A mind, ears, the science of smelling food, a brain, able to move around and move things around, 2 arms, 2 legs, well put together. And you got the arrogance to think that you can kill what you can't create. We need to all think about that. Doesn't make any difference whether it's Mr. Trump or what you think about him or anything like that. Climb up on a roof and say, I'm going to kill him. So I'm on television. They talk about him a whole lot, so he must be famous. So if I kill him, I'll be famous for 15 minutes. The average person does not remember his name. But you're going to kill somebody to get your 15 minutes of fame. We need to all think about it. Mr. Netanyahu and everybody else over there in the Middle East, and Mr. Putin strutting around. Send me more arms. What for? What about some tractors? Grow some food for some hungry people. What about that, sir? Oh, no. Let's tear up things. I want to see something destroyed. And the main thing is these creatures called people. I didn't create them, but I can destroy them. I'm going to do a bunch of it. Come on.
Okay.
Come on, man. Like we say in the ghetto. Come on, man.
You say that or are saying this, but how does that address the question that Ross Amin was saying as he was addressing the fact that he had made a mistake on who was raising him? I don't get the relevance of what you're saying.
Abuse of any kind is a form of death.
Okay.
It's mental death.
Okay. And these
We're
were just
walking
examples.
around doing things like we shouldn't have been born.
Okay.
And putting value on it. There's such a thing as The Walking Dead. They even have a TV series about that.
Okay. All right. Well,
glorifying death again.
All right. Well, just trying to bring it back in to bring some relevance to that, because I kind of got lost in the sauce.
Yes, well, everything is connected.
Okay.
That's what we have to think about. We should definitely think about how everything is connected with everything else. A grain of sand that a small rock that turns over on the planet Venus right now, just a rock, been there for trillions of years, and for some reason it just turns over. And that causes something to happen in Indianapolis, Indiana, and nobody's aware of it.
Okay, so we're all connected then. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Well, this one I'm going to do. I'm going to connect to this station break right now. Everybody, you are listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and we do thank you for your listenership. If you'd like to get in contact with the show, you know the number, but for those who don't, here it is, 516-453-9921. It's the number you choose or to dial to get in contact with the show. And when the person on the other end gets in contact with you, then make sure you give them your name, as Blacktop has, Christopher, and looks like Victor has, and many more. That's what you do. First-time callers, you do the same thing, but just indicate that you are a first-time caller, okay? Do that. You can also join the chat room. Here's the information. Go to blogtalkradio.com. You want to click on where it says Programs, and the program you want is the Produce Justice Show. You click on that. The chat room is available for you. You get in there. Matter of fact, I have something from the chat room that I'll deliver later, hopefully. And lastly, if you don't want to do either one of those, you can have me ask your questions. You can use my Gmail address. Here it is, the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, MRBOBBY, @gmail.com. I will get it, and I will place it in the stack with the rest of the Gmails, and at a certain time, I will read it and then let you know, and have Mr. Fuller address that, your questions. Okay, lastly here, don't forget books. You can get by going to producejustice.com. That is producejustice.com. Okay, let's see. Seishatas Felt, or Fact 7. I saw what you have written or informed me of, so I'm going to try to work that in here. But right now, let's work in the top. That's that Blacktop, New York. The top. You are in, waited patiently, and now you're on. Go ahead.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Bobby, and good morning, Mr. Fuller. How are you both doing?
Good morning, brothers.
I'm still learning.
So I have two questions. The first question is they're very simple questions. The first one's a multiple. Well, let me just get into it. My question is, what kind of reputation do you have? Do you think that you have, and how does one go about getting a good reputation, particularly as a black person, as black people? How do you go about getting a good reputation?
You don't think about getting a reputation, whatever that means. It means other people's opinion. You think about what your goal in this existence. You were created by a creator sometime or another. So you are supposed to be on an assignment that a creator gave you. So your job is to figure out your assignment.
What is that?
And to keep going in that direction. And your assignment, according to logic, would be to try to make the world the type of place that it ought to be. That should be, I'm trying to help facilitate that, so you can be focused. You don't have to do a whole lot of thinking outside of that. You might say outside of that box. What's your assignment? Why were you born? You didn't know anything about being born. The day that you were born, you didn't know you were being born. I know I didn't. I never heard anybody say that they remember when they were born, what they were doing. Were they eating cereal? Before they came here? No, they just became aware of being here. So you say, I'm here. And who am I? What am I doing here? And so you look around, see what everybody else is doing, and just kind of fall in line. But what is the real reason you're here? It takes a while to find out. So if somebody tells you to think about it, it'll come to you. And that's all this program is about. Just asking you to ask yourself, why are you here? And so what this program is about is to carry out your assignment. And so when I came to the conclusion years ago, much too late, later than, according to me, I should have found out, and that is to make the world the type of place that it should be, because it's not the type of place right now anywhere on the planet. I don't care where you go. I don't care what it looks like. All the glitz and glitter and comings and goings. It's really shallow. All of it. It takes some people a long time to figure that out. It took me much longer than it takes the average person. But once you find out what it is, and that is people have problems, the world has problems, there are problems with one of the greatest creations that you have on this planet called Earth, and that is problems that people make what are they supposed to be doing other than all this stuff that we are doing?
Okay.
Making the world. Yeah, we're supposed to be producing a thing that we loosely call justice.
Okay.
Which, in my opinion, means guarantee that no person is mistreated, and guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help.
Constructive help. Okay.
And that is everybody's assignment.
That's everybody's assignment. Okay. What's your second question, Blacktop?
And I just want to ask, just please put me on hold. Don't hang up on me. I just want to ask Mr. Fuller, if you had to live this life all over again, what would you do different? And I'll stay on hold.
All right.
Try to produce justice. That wasn't my focus when I was younger. I didn't have a focus. I was just going around doing what I saw other people do. It took me a long time to figure out people not doing much of anything that makes sense.
Okay.
And if you stand back and look at it right now, and I hope you're a very young person, I hope. I mean, just look at what people are doing. All people, including the smartest people on the planet, who are the white supremacists. Look at what they actually do. They're actually going around trying, after building people up, knock them down. Build up to knock down. They put up pretty buildings, and you go here, and you got everybody running here and running there, and got to see this and got to see that. I got to see this. Man, they're having this event over here, man. I got to go. You ain't got to do nothing. Sit there and look at that got-to-go bunch who went, came back exhausted and broke, trying to start all over again. When you actually look at the world, all this excitement, that word, excitement, we all got to have it, we think. You ain't got to have nothing like no excitement, ever.
All righty. Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Fuller. Blacktop, got you on hold. Let's do Christopher in Richmond. Christopher, you're up. What is your question for Mr. Fuller? Good morning.
Hello, y'all. I actually have two questions today. But the first question is it logical, according to universal logic, is it logical to vote in the United States election?
Yes, I do it. So I have to say it. I mean, one thing you can't stand from Neely Fuller is just to add to the list of hypocrites. And it's something I learned from a black sergeant in Wajima, Japan, back in the 1950s. And he said, Fuller, you talk all this philosophy and all like that. He says, but when it comes to some things, like satisfying wants, he says a little bit of something is better than a whole lot of nothing. And so I thought about that. It rang a bell with me. And it kind of stuck with me. So when I look at the elections and all like that, man, in my opinion, I'm going to tell the world, everything about them, every election everywhere so far has been shabby. Every last one of them. This is as shabby as they can be. I don't care what so-called party you belong to or what nation you're in. I mean, this is terrible. Okay. All of it. But you do the best you can with what you got. That's what Thurgood Marshall said. That's how he wanted to be remembered. I did the best that I could with what I had.
Okay. What's your second question, Christopher?
Hold on just a second. I'm sorry. I have it written down. Actually, maybe just come back to me because I can't find my question right now.
All righty, we'll go to Victor in Canada. Victor, good morning. What is your question for Mr. Fuller? All right, Victor in Canada. What is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Oh, I had two questions.
What is your question for Mr. Fuller, Victor?
Oh, I had two questions. Sorry, Mr.
Go ahead,
Bobby.
Victor.
My question is, Mr. Fuller, when it comes to being mistreated for any reason, in particular being mistreated because you're not white, what do the white supremacists get out of that besides white supremacy?
They get white supremacy. That's a value system within itself. It's something that people got together and chose to do. So you know what? Let's elevate to the highest position white people on this planet as being a supreme people. Based on what? Based on being white. Nobody ever thought of people being elevated based on a color. Or maybe a color of a flag or something like that, and then they'll tell you what the flag means. Or they'll base it on something they call my forefather before me was this, that, and the other. It's called royalty. And they kind of ease into the color thing, in my opinion, with royalty that got to be looked at in its most powerful form, something called royalty, that we are very special. We're the special of the most special of people. And so I think that the color thing eased into it, this idea of royalty, a supreme family, a supreme person, with somebody talking about blue blood. Now, blue is a color. Now, the origin of the term blue blood came into being, I don't know. I have some ideas. I think it had to do with white people looking at their veins through their white skin. And even though blood is red, through the white skin, I think they could see, and I think I've seen it, the veins, and when you can see veins on very light skin or white skin, sometimes can look blue, I guess. I think I've seen that, all right? I think that's how it got started. Then they started talking about, well, we won't deal with just the veins because black people have veins, but you can't tell nothing about it from the outside. Well, we want something that's visible from the outside so that somebody will know that you are super special. Say, well, why not make it skin? That's the outside thing on everybody's body. Everybody's body is covered with a thing called skin. Say, yeah, that's it. Hey, Will, what about this? White supremacy. I think that's really how it came about. Just a couple of guys, hanging out and talking to each other.
Okay.
And it turned out to be the most powerful idea ever conceived in the minds of people.
Okay. All righty. What's your second question, Victor?
Okay. I just wanted to know if, I think a couple of years back you said that the seeds of of dismantling white supremacy is built into the system. How do we bring out those seeds that we could use to dismantle this system?
Through a code.
For constructive results.
Having a. Oh, you hadn't finished your question. How to dismantle the system?
Yeah, how to dismantle.
How to proceed? You can start with Neely Fuller's book, and it's got a whole bunch of instructions in it. And this,
all right.
Yeah, and keep in mind what the book is for. Replace the system of white supremacy with a better system. No point in getting rid of white supremacy. You don't have any plan or any idea of what to replace it with.
Yes.
That's the law of compensation. That's the law of the universe.
Yeah.
When you move something, you got to replace it with something. Otherwise, why'd you move it?
Okay. Yeah, now you already know that, Victor, because you've called in here many times. You know how to replace the system, but thank you for your call anyway. Jamal in Pennsylvania. Let me see if I can get you over there. All right, Jamal, good morning. And what is your question for Mr. Fuller?
Good morning, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller. Just had two questions for Mr. Fuller. Have you ever thought about the month you were born in October, which is the zodiac sign for Libra, which means scales of justice? Have you ever thought about that correlating to you producing justice, or is it just a coincidence?
All right, let's give Mr. Fuller a chance to answer that question.
What's that last part of the question?
Or is it just a coincidence?
Have I ever thought about being what they call a Libra, being born in October?
Yes, the Libra means scales of justice. And here you are trying to produce justice. Do you think there's a correlation or connection or not?
It could be. It may be something to it, but I've read different people's opinions of when October comes and gives you advice. If you're born in October, I was born October the 6th, 1929, what you should do this week is this, that, and other. Now, that's where they kind of lost me, when they started giving advice based on when you were born. It might be something to it, but different people have different opinions about it. And I know from experience, I've looked into it, and some things they sound seem to make sense. And I think that whoever discovered that makes a little bit of sense. It's worth looking into, but I think there's a whole lot of things that got to be looked into that they haven't even scratched the surface on when it's approached that way.
Okay. All
and
right.
The way they have been doing it. They got to come up with a new way of saying it might be something to this thing about signs of the zodiac and all that. But we ain't nowhere close to breaking that code.
All righty. Hey, listen, everybody that's on the line, listen, cut down your radio because the background noise is very frustrating. Don't do that. You can hear yourself. Play this program back and you can hear yourself. But right now, the background noise is just terrible. So please, ma'am, please, sir, stop it. All right, Jamal. What is your second question? Wait a minute. Okay, what is your second question?
If you ever saw the movie Driving Miss Daisy, what lessons did you get from that?
All right.
Yes. I've seen it.
All right. You said, what lessons did you get from that movie?
Oh, what lessons did I get?
Mm-hmm.
Just a movie about white supremacy. That's what it's about. probably worth seeing is not on my list because I had priorities about.
Yeah.
Because I chose the movies that are on the list and on my website based on the number of lessons in each movie and how many lessons were repeated that were repeated over and over again in other movies that are on the list.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what you're looking for, you usually don't see anything until you're looking for it.
Mm.
People have a tendency to do that. The mind just kind of works that way.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for lessons in hope or lessons in what to do and what not to do under certain circumstances, the best thing to do, the worst thing to do, all the movies on the list that I have on my website that you can get by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. It's about, I think I got maybe about 20 or 30.
Yeah, okay.
But all of those movies, a lot of them are what most people would call just as corny and boring as they can be. But there's lessons in all of them, and they're loaded. Okay. And I tried to get the movies that when you see them all, and really concentrate on what you're looking at in each scene and what the characters say. I have some movies that I think have more lessons than others, naturally. I think you have a good, excellent backup frame of reference to the books that I wrote.
Books that you wrote. Okay, very good. All right, let's go to Corey, Milwaukee. Corey, wait a minute, get you over here. All right, Corey, go ahead.
Greetings, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller, I appreciate what you shared, especially about what our purpose is, finding out what our purpose is under this system of racism, white supremacy. I had a conversation with a fellow victim, a elder black man, elder than myself, and the conversation was going in such a way where I expressed that my purpose here is to solve problems and to do my best to make sure no one's mistreated or harmed, and to make sure that who needs help the most receives the most help. The definition of justice that you put forward. And this elder man gave his statement, which was, I avoid problems. I'm not here to solve problems. I'm here to get around problems. So I just wanted you to express your opinion on that frame of thinking. Is that a codified way of thinking to try to avoid problems, or is it codified to try to solve the problem?
Okay, Mr. Fuller?
Oh, well, he answered the question that you apparently asked. What is he here for? And he told you. And so you thank him for his answer. And then you tell him what you think you're here for. See, we're all equal prisoners, so we can give our opinions about why we're here. But you gave him yours about what you should do. But you don't tell him, you make a suggestion that his, if you want to, you can make a suggestion that maybe he should be, that he should come to the conclusion that he's here not to avoid problems, but to solve them.
As
so
a
somebody
suggestion.
has to solve them, all right, as a suggestion.
Right.
See, and that's what I do on this program. But I can't talk down to him, even a younger person, young, old, whatnot. I talk to a 10-year-old just like I would talk to somebody who was 80 or 90, like in that register of where I am. I mean, and they're all ma'am and sir. See, I don't talk down to anybody. I mean, the code does not allow that.
Right.
So we're all equals and we all have opinions.
Exactly, because you said, and you've always said this, at least I've always interpreted you saying that in this case, the man said what he said. He said what he said. That's it.
Yeah, he said what he said. And if somebody asks you what did he say, you just repeat what he said and remember his name, okay? And all like that, and try to get his name straight. So, because one thing you have to do to solve problems, and that is avoid confusion.
Avoid confusion. All right.
I mean, that's how you solve problems to start with. That's rule number one. So you always want the truth about everything. You can't solve problems without the truth.
Oh, yes.
You're gonna make more problems if you don't start with the truth. Even though it sounds good. I mean, if it ain't the truth, oh no. No.
That's correct. All right.
No.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you very much as we close down this first hour. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
Mr. Fuller, Representative Congresswoman passed this, I guess it was last week, late last week, Sheila Jackson Lee, a representative out of Texas. I think she may have been running for mayor of Houston, Texas, but she passed away of, I didn't know this, of cancer. But I understand that the House of Representatives Bill number 61 was something in effect to eliminate, inspired by white supremacy. The White Supremacy Act, the Leading Against White Supremacy Act of 2023. I didn't know that. It's 2023 LAWS, Leading Against White Supremacy Act of 2023, was presented to Congress this month, but the bill faced a lot of criticism. Were you aware of that bill? Because I know I wasn't.
I am not aware of it. I am pleased to be made aware of it. I've been thinking about Miss Sheila. Excuse me, Miss Sheila Jackson Lee, and I remember her as being consistent in my mind and trying to do the best, like Thurgood Marshall said, do the best with what she had. And I put her name down on a piece of paper, names that I thought that somebody should mention every now and then and look at what they were trying to do, like Sojourner Truth and
yes,
all the people, Martin Luther King, even though he's still around, Mr. Andrew Young, whatnot. Just all the names that cross your mind and say there are people who were trying. You know, we're not nowhere near, like Martin Luther King said and a whole lot of other speakers have said, where we need to be. Miss Jackson, Mrs. Jackson, is one of them.
Yes, she was.
And so, you know, there's so many people. So local person, I'd like to mention Miss Julianne Malveaux, who is on a program on radio station WPFW, and also Miss attorney and activist E. Faye Williams. A lot of people may have never heard of her, but I just want to, for the record, that's someone who I've met personally, and briefly I met Miss Malveaux and whatnot,
Okay.
But these are people who are kind of, they're not known except just primarily locally.
Okay.
And whatnot. But I just want to mention their names. All of the people. There's just so many names. Hundreds of people whose names will never be known. I mean, if we know them, like Miss Zenobia Davis, just mention their names. Put it out there. It might do something to the universe.
We will do that. Okay. Well, I'd like to thank Seisha Felt Fact 7 for the information on House Representative Bill number 61. If you get a chance to, since you listen to this program, check it out. Check it out. It's the laws against racism. Wait a minute, because I had it down in here. Yeah, she was from Texas. I can't get that information, but it's LAW. Yeah, Laws Against White Supremacy, 2023 Laws Against White Supremacy. Check that out. See what happened. But she passed away before it could get any traction to it. But anyway, that concludes the first hour.
I'd like to have a copy of that if I know where to get it.
I'm pretty sure that information, I'll try to get that information to you from Say Shatas Fact 7 sent that to me, or have somebody in your circle gather that up, because it's on there. Matter of fact, here it is, but it's too long to mention on the radio right now.
On the program, right?
Yeah, on the program right now. But anybody goes in the chat room, it's right in there where you can pull the whole thing up. So have one of your representatives do that, and you can go in the chat room by going to going to blogtalkradio.com, and then the steps to go through to get into the chat room, and then there it is. Anyway, that concludes the first hour. For those of you who have to go, thank you for your listening-ship to that first hour. We made a lot of stumbles, a lot of mistakes, but we're trying to get better on that. So hopefully you'll forgive us, and you'll see us next week. But for those who are going to be around, stick and stay, don't go away, because we have a second hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller coming up in 10 seconds. Alrighty, welcome Black. That's right, you heard correctly. To the second hour of the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. Listen, we would love for you to call in. I have some Gmails that I need to get to read if we have the opportunity or space to do that, and I will do them. So they are on hold. But listen, this is how you do it. Just dial this number, or whatever you do, 56516-453-9921. And if you have a question, people seem to be asking 2 questions today. I'm letting it go for some reason. But anyway, press the button, and then somebody will get on there and give them your name, and then just wait. Line up and wait, as they say in airport talk. Just line up and wait until you get clued in. Don't forget now, when you ask Mr. Fuller a question, he's going to go through many examples, so you have to be patient. Because he's bringing in those examples. But the reason why Mr. Fuller does that is because they're trying to eliminate confusion. And, boy, do we have a lot of confusion going on. So be patient and wait. All right. You can also Gmail me at my Gmail address, which is the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, MRBOBBY @gmail.com. Then ask your question, and then I will read it when we get time enough to read it. Depending upon the call volume, it seems to be a little strong today, so that's why we're not really into it to read them. But it will be read at some point in time. And lastly, you can join the chat room. You do. Go to blogtalkradio.com. You want to click on programs, get the program menu up, and then under programs, you want the Produce Justice Show. Do that. Hit the Produce Justice Show, and then the chat room becomes available. And that information that Mr. Fuller had asked for from Say Shatas Fact 7 is on there, how to get that information about the proposal that the late Representative Sheila Jackson Lee had proposed to the House of Representatives, the laws against white supremacy. Yeah, that's what it is, laws against white supremacy. It's a fact. It's on there. That's how you can get it if you're really interested, or are you just talking just to be talking. I think there was a song that used to come out, say talking loud and saying nothing. But don't just talk about it, be about it, okay? All right, now enough of that editorial. All right, so we'll do that. And we're going to get this new caller on the way, too, by the way. Okay. All righty. Don't forget the book that Mr. Fuller has made reference to at least 4 times a day. You can get the book at producejustice.com, producejustice.com, the name, the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. Monica up in Buffalo has tried, I think, to get the book in the library. I think 1 copy is in there, but mention that. She mentioned that. There you go, Monica. Got your mention in there from Buffalo, New York. But get that book, producejustice.com. Producejustice.com will get you to where you need to be, and you can go from there. Okay. Let's see. Let's do this. You know what? We got a new caller, maybe with some information by way of Arizona. Now, you know what? I don't know if this is Cheyenne or what. Tell me if I got it correctly. Let me see if I can get you in here. Okay, new caller alert, new caller. Did I pronounce that right? Is it Cheyenne?
Yes, with the N, Cheyenne.
Oh, okay, Cheyenne. Okay, anyway. Good morning, and thank you for calling in. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, greetings, Mr. Fuller. Greetings, Mr. Bobby. So, well, before I start, I just want to say thank you and express my utmost gratitude to Mr. Fuller for his dedication to producing justice and to his seriousness with which he approaches this work. So I have 2 questions. The first question is, seeing that it's such a very long process that we're involved in to produce justice, Mr. Fuller, do you have any tips for keeping up your morale, for staying motivated?
Ask yourself when you get up every morning or whenever you get up, what am I supposed to be doing on this planet? Why was I born? That's a question that's crossed your mind maybe sometime. And you're born to solve problems. Why? Because you got problems. So you look around to see what's the root of your problems. And you say, you got all kinds of people going, running here, running there, including myself. That's what you tell yourself, because that's what I did. I said, you know, I've been here, been there, I've listened to this and listened to that, and been a part of this and a part of that. But what am I really here for with the little time that I have left when I start getting really serious, which was really later than it should have been? And I came to the conclusion to solve problems, and you may come to the same conclusion. It's the one I came to. And what's the biggest problem? Something called racism, in the form of something called white supremacy. And what is this thing called racism and white supremacy? It's mistreating people based on the color of the skin of the people who are being mistreated or to be mistreated. And it needs to be replaced with every type of system that needs to be replaced. Not just a system of white supremacy, but the system of mistreatment of any kind, of anybody, anywhere. And so that would be a system of what? Theoretically, something called, that has never happened in recorded history, a system of justice. It's never happened in the recorded history of the universe. Well, what is it? It's guaranteeing that nobody is mistreated. That's number one. And it's guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. Underline the last two words, constructive help. In order to do what? Produce two words again. Constructive results.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right.
And just keep focused on that. Every move that you make in economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Everything that you do in all of those areas and any area I can think of that I haven't mentioned, every move you make, ask yourself, am I producing a constructive result? And the answer to that question is going to always be either yes or no.
Or no. That's
correct. There's no wiggle room.
No,
none.
Not on that.
That's what you want. Just ask yourself, whatever you're doing, am I doing something that's going to result in something constructive?
Okay.
Or is it going to be something that seems like the whole world's always doing, something destructive?
It does seem that way. What's your second question, my brother?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Fuller. So my second question, if my understanding is correct, Mr. Fuller at some period of time served as some type of an advisor, or at least a friend, but an advisor for Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, and may have been helpful in her developing her awareness or political framework from out of which she was able to do her own work.
Okay.
So my second question is, Mr. Fuller, did you have an advisor or any advisors that helped you to come up with your understanding, your political ideology, and to help formulate some of what you were coming up with for the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept?
Okay, let's give Fuller a chance to answer that. Mr. Fuller?
Everybody that I ever met, everybody I ever talked to that made me think has helped me. That might not even been their intention, and I met a lot of people that didn't have the correct intentions, but just saying what they were saying, they helped me when I started tuning in to learning how people think. And then start asking myself the correct question. And that is what I say is the most essential question. It's what I'm hearing and everything associated with it going to produce a constructive result, starting with me? Or is it going to make me think about doing something stupid?
Yeah.
See, so everybody that I've ever been in contact with that I can remember that impressed me, like somebody I mentioned in the first hour, Miss Zenobia Davis of Washington, D.C. I saw a notice in a newspaper years ago that she was deceased now. But I'm going to mention her name here in 2024 because she impressed me just to the extent that I remember her name, and then what she said, I'll ask God to help me. And the way that she said it, I've heard people mention God like ever since I've been on the planet, it seems like, even stepping right out of the crib. I've been to every church ever built, it seems like. But Miss Zenobia Davis, on that particular day, what she said, just a simple statement to something I said she could not do, because they, whomever they are, a whole lot of people who give orders say you can't do that. And she said, I'll ask God to help me. It stunned me the way that she said it, because she said it like a child, like a little baby. I mean, just learning vaguely that there is something called a creator. So that's something we all should think about. That's what I'm thinking about right now.
Okay.
And
very good.
And in answer to your question, I think that you should think about it. I'll ask God to help me.
Help me. It can't go wrong with that.
At some point, you may do that.
Okay.
I've seen that in hospitals.
All righty. My brother, don't be a stranger. That's what I tell all new callers. CHYAN, by way of Chicago of Arizona. Don't be a stranger, a new caller. All righty. Let's see. Mr. Fuller, before I read this Gmail, you said that, in your opinion, you've been to almost every church that you can think of or something like that. Let me ask you this question. Have you been to the church that's inside of you? Or did you
I've
know
been to the church, what?
Inside of yourself?
Yes, because that's what my religion is now.
I am
now
so
we're
happy
talking
you
about
said
it.
that. I am so happy you said that, because it is true. A lot of people don't believe that, but it is true. The church inside of you, your body, is a temple. It sure is. What is that, 1 Corinthians 6:19? Yeah. That temple of the Holy Ghost. I'm glad you said that, Mr. Fuller. Thank you so much. Okay, let me get this Gmail in here. By the way, that is in the Bible, 1 Corinthians 6:19. All right, anyway, this comes from Miss Anonymous. Says this, Mr. Fuller. I saw that one southern state is trying to pass a bill on allowing public school teachers to have firearms in the school system around students. I do recall a rumor that former President Trump was trying to pass it for all 50 states when he was elected. But to know what your opinion about this, Mr. Fuller. P.S., I don't think teachers or any school staff members should have one unless they are law officials at the school. This comes from Miss Anonymous, but she wants to know, I want to know what's your opinion about this, Mr. Fuller.
Well, I have to start by saying, like on every program I've been saying for years, even before this succession was made, and people talk about gun control and all like that, you need people control, and that starts with the mind and the intention. I'm saying this because this, it winds up saying, okay, well, you got teachers now. Now, since you got teachers that are teaching, and the teachers are an example of what they're supposed to be teaching, so why not? And somebody's thinking about it right now, particularly the people that sell guns. We got teachers, faculty members, the principal walking around with a .38 police special or 44 Magnum of some type or another, or maybe even a AK-47 over there in a case by his desk. Why not the students in their lockers who have been cleared so far because they haven't done anything seriously? And then why not this people? Why not that people? And then we got more gun sales, and we got what we really love, more people killing people. Boy, that's wonderful. That's such a great feeling. Just pull the trigger on somebody, bust the cap in them, as they say in the hood, okay, and feel good. So that's my view of it right now. Where does it stop?
Where does it stop?
I say, where does it start? You start talking about we need more of something, some kind of tool that somebody makes in a factory that will cause somebody's death. Death comes soon enough. What about building a better tractor? Building some tools that will produce healthy food rather than this artificial stuff they got all over every shelf in every grocery store, killing people.
All
right. That's my broad answer. I mean, but like all I have a tendency to do, I connect everything with everything else because it is connected, either for producing constructive results or non-constructive results. That's what everything you're looking at is for.
All righty. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. That information that I gave on Sheila Jackson Lee, say Shah Tas Fact 7, indicated, now this I didn't know, Mr. Fuller, said that that bill was introduced over a year ago, but we're just now seeing that before she passed away. Delayed, maybe denied. They didn't. Oh, yeah. Sometimes makes me wonder if delay is the same thing as deny. I don't know. Wow, they didn't want to address it. But I know somebody that's going to address it. Here's my man from the Yo. Everybody around the world know about the Yo. Even Putin knows about the Yo, I think. All right, Talif, we're going to get you. There you are. Go ahead. Do it.
Good morning, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller. I know Mr. Fuller always saying that we celebrate violence. Well, Mr. Fuller, Cool in the Game, made a song called Celebrate Good Times. I actually heard some guys playing that one time while they had some guns out. Speaking of WPFW, I'm listening to that right now also, Mr. Fuller. A buddy of mine that lives in Beltsville, Maryland, actually grew up in Ohio. He's a avid supporter of them, and I met some of the guys. I met Scooter Magruder, even though he's not a regular contributor anymore, but he does fill in. But I do want to say, Mr. Fuller, Mr. Bobby, you know, before the 1500s, there was no such thing as a race. And for a significant part of history, it was never used. But, you know, the U.S. has never been without it. But this is what I want to say, Mr. Fuller, and I do want you to chime in. Okay, Biden stepped out. Now you got Kamala Harris. I saw something last night on Roland Martin where they want so-called black men. Now we got to support her. And I saw something the other day. I may have sent it to you, Mr. Bobby, where this woman was at a church and she was basically collecting money. So what I'm trying to say, Mr. Fuller, is that hopefully people are using your book for logic. And the reason I say that is I remember one year I was listening to, because I was in the car, so it was on the radio. It was a college football game. And this guy, Kirk Herbstreit, he graduated from Ohio State. I think he was a quarterback. But one of the teams, I don't think it was Ohio State, but one of the teams did some kind of trick play. And he used the word trickeration. So I kind of adopted that word. So, Mr. Fuller, you always say that we have to produce justice. Well, I want you to let the people know how can, especially our people, but just about anybody really, we get tricked and pimped by our own people. We get tricked and pimped by everybody else. Like the woman that was in the church, a scammer. Hey, give me your money, but you're not going to get it back. The politicians trick you. They got you supporting them. The Democratic, the RNC and the DSC are private corporations, and we give money to thugs, basically.
Talib, wait a minute. What is your question, though? Because you're
that's what I'm getting to.
Okay.
That's what I'm getting to it. So, Mr. Fuller, how can the people use your book, because I read it for that purpose, so that they won't be tricked, not only by the so-called white supremacists, but our own people? So can you speak on that? So we still won't be tricked into giving money to churches and people that should need it and help those that really need the help.
Okay, good question. Mr. Fuller.
Do what the code requires you to do if you're going to follow the code, because keep your eyes on the prize is a slang expression, or is a very serious expression, and that prize is a thing called justice. Anytime somebody's trying to trick somebody in order to not produce justice, in other words, a trick really means that somebody's going to do something that, first of all, avoid telling the truth. That's what a so-called scam is, to the best of my knowledge. Not telling the truth. Okay? So right there, you always try to find out what the truth is. Like once in a church that I attended at the time, one of the church members stood up in the church and challenged someone who was supposed to be a leader in the church. And his challenge was, and I witnessed this myself, he said, now, several people who are sitting up here at that table, and I won't name who they are, and then he says, well, it's one name I will ask, because he's the treasurer. Say, what happened to the money that we raised to fix the plumbing in this church? What happened to it? And he did that right in the church while the whole congregation was there. And I remember that to this day. Now, what was he doing? He wanted the truth revealed. How do you reveal truth? Ask questions. You see somebody doing something, and you say, wait a minute. If it's about money, then you say, okay, somebody gave money to somebody else, or I gave money to somebody else, or somebody gave money to me. What happened to the money? Did it go to do what was supposed to be done and agreed upon by everybody who was in on the agreement? And last but not least, did it produce a constructive result? If so, how? Not if you started off telling lies, all right? Might be mistakes or whatnot, well then correct mistakes by finding out what to do about that. But you start, first of all, Okay, you want to collect this money. What are you going to do with it? That's a logical question.
Yeah.
Money is just a tool to get something done. It's not just something that you collect and just sit on the shelf like a trophy, unless it's no longer what you call currency. That's why they call it currency. It's something that you use now. All right, keep it moving. Money is not even money if it's not moving. It becomes money when it moves. And by its movement, it causes people minds to function in a certain way that there is a constructive result or a what? Non-constructive result. Now here again, I went a roundabout way of answering that question, but that's it.
Okay, that's all right. That's all right. Hey, we got to break it off here. Hang on. Hang on, Talib. We got to break this off. Okay, you're listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and we would love for you to be a participant in the last half hour of the program. You can do that by calling 516-453-9921. That's the number. And just wait. Somebody will pick up the phone and make sure you give them your name so that they can put it on the screen, and I can get it. Okay, first-time caller, just identify yourself as a first-time caller. Again, 516-453-9921. Person in, if you don't want to do that and want me to read your question through the Gmail, just do this. My Gmail address is the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, MrBobby@gmail.com. I will get it, let you know about it, and read it when we have time. I'll read it. And they're beginning to get stacked up, but don't worry about it. It'll be read. And lastly, you can join the chat room. Good information in the chat room by going to blogtalkradio.com. You want to click on programs, and the show that you want to get when you do that is the Produce Justice Show. And when you do that, then the chat room becomes available to you, and occasionally I will select some things that are prominent in the chat room and go on from there. There's some good information in there, though, I'll tell you. Very good information. You can look at it and see if it's relevant to you. Yes, good information. Okay, let me continue. Oh, yeah, and don't forget books. You know the book, the guide, book of suggestions on how to deal with racism, white supremacy, suggestions, right there at ProduceJustice.com, Mr. Fuller's book. All right, Talif, go ahead, continue now, sir.
Yeah, well, he answered, but the reason I say that, there was a lady I met, and I'm not going to stay long, but, you know, I'm always thinking differently, and they were talking about giving money to a church. He had a podcast, and I just went on there and says, hey, you should ask questions before you give anything, but I think that you should take care of yourself and your family first. And if you get some help from God or whatever you call that person, then that'll be an added bonus. And Mr. Fuller, she told me I was preaching hate. So I asked her, what did she mean by hate? But I never got a response. So I'm just saying, Mr. Fuller, I know you talk about white supremacy, but we got enough tricksters amongst ourselves, and that's all I wanted to say.
Okay. All righty. What is it? The love of money is the root of all evil. Okay. Wow.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Talib. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me see. Let me see. It says Blacktop. Blacktop, did you have another question? Because you're up on the screen again. Nope. Okay. Let's see. Let's go to the Dollar. Dollar, you're up on the screen again. Did you have another question?
Well, Mr. Bobby and Ms. Fuller, it's my first time coming on today. Hold on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, must be the weather or something. Everybody's kind of slow today. I'm surprised at y'all. Come on, let's pump it up a little bit. We're talking about injustice out there. All right, so I want to go right to the book today. I'm going to page 62 in the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, textbook workbooks, thought, speech, and or action for victims of racism, white supremacy. And Mr. Fuller, you did mention your friend this morning in the first hour, and you said that she said that I'll ask God to help me. And I went back. It really coincided with what I was going to read today from the book on page 62. We're talking about economics. I'm bringing in economics because I think black folk are overlooking the economic portion. And you say on page 62 in the second, it's not the second paragraph, there's two, I want to say subjects or topics. You say as long as white supremacy, racism exists, ask white people, including the white supremacists, to help you to provide material care for your offspring as well as for yourselves. And you know we've been talking about reparations, so I had to jump right in on this one. And then I'm just going to sum up your reasons and explanations. You said all persons who are white supremacists are greatly, all persons who are subject to the white supremacists are greatly limited, and quality of all that is of constructive value. You said white supremacists who are functionally responsible or for directly or indirectly providing constructive care for their victims, non-white people, it is just and correct for all victims of white supremacy to seek their care first from the white supremacists. They should not seek it from the Creator. There you go. I'll ask God to help me from the Creator and through themselves. So first we must ask the white supremacists. Then you said it's just correct for all victims to first ask from the white supremacists and then from the Creator and then ourselves. I wanted to chime on that, and then I'm going right into something that I think you would appreciate in economics, because we talked about, you said that you were going to be looking into reparations a little bit deeper. So I would like to quote something from Dr. Martin Luther King today, and then possibly you can tell us your feelings, interview that can be found on the web.
Now, before you do that, now, I want you to realize
at the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergrind its white peasants from Europe, an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they presented county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that.
Hey, Dollar Bill, wait a minute, Dollar Bill. Let me stop you right there. What do you want Mr. Fuller to answer? Dollar Bill.
Yeah.
What do you want Mr. Fuller to answer? Because you asked him about five questions.
I wanted him to ask. Well, on that, he's saying that we need to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, right? So, Mr. Fuller, what do you say to Mr. King? Why are we not? Those were like his final words that he wanted us to follow, the next steps to economics. Why? What do you say to that? I'll leave it at that. And I'll stay on the line.
We look at, as victims of white supremacy, it means we're subject to the white supremacists. So we ask, like, you ask somebody to do the bus driver to drive the bus. I mean, whomever is supposed to be doing whatever they're doing. If I'm going to catch the bus has to have a driver. If I'm not assigned or not in position to drive the bus, I might be in a wheelchair or whatever. Is the bus driver going to drive the bus and then allow me to ride on the bus that the bus driver is driving? Now, somebody will say, well, wheelchairs are not allowed on this bus. Okay? Well, then I'll say, well, I got to go somewhere because I can't get there in this wheelchair. So, like Miss Davis said, I'll ask God to help me. Why? Because if you're in a wheelchair, there's not a whole lot of help that you can give people in that wheelchair other than to talk about doing certain things. You can show people how to do it and all like that. You might be a professor in a universe, or you might be like some people who have been invalids all of their days, but their mind was working. Or people who were born blind, they have schools. They got help from someone who was not blind, all right? And someone had to lead them until they were shown, maybe with a cane or something like that, how to move around. It's a technique for doing that. It's always been a mystery to me. Okay, but somebody figured out how to do it. And the person who was blind learned from the person that knew what to do. The person. And beyond that, to do like Miss Davis said, well, they won't help me. I just ask God to help me because I can't do nothing else. There's no way that I can move out of this wheelchair. I got paralyzed when I was 2 years old, and it's been this way ever since. So somebody had to make a wheelchair. I couldn't make it. I couldn't do anything. I'm helpless, except the court of last resort and the first resort in some instances. I'll ask my Creator to help me because I was born paralyzed. That's how I came into the world. I've been in this wheelchair ever since. If I'm not in a place where when I get to that curb, or I'm in this wheelchair, and that curb is 3 feet high, the wheelchair and the curb are incompatible.
Okay.
So I need further help.
Need further help.
We all need a lot of help right now, and there will come a day when that will be demonstrated for sure. And I know a little bit about that because I've been in and out of hospitals.
Yes, sir.
And I see what happens.
Yes, sir.
To even the baddest dude on the block might be in there.
Okay.
Asking for what? Help.
Help.
They call it a hospital. It means hospitality.
Okay.
All right. You know, in other words, we welcome you because we are the people who are here to help.
Okay. Now, under the auspices of what you just said, which I agree with, and in particular, because I know you don't particularly care when confusion reigns, one of our callers who's been listening for a long time is having some problems, Mr. Fuller, with her book order, and she doesn't want this to be public, but she had mentioned that her order, which is number 9292, she's tried to contact Produce Justice several times, and she said she has gotten no response. Now, she's willing to be patient about it, but under the auspices of what you just said, help, she's asking for help in receiving her product. So is there anything that you could do or forward this information to her, to the people that are in charge of that? Number 9292. She's been waiting patiently for the response. Is there anything that you can do, Mr. Fuller, about that?
Yes. Put down everything that she's telling me. And also say that she talked to me directly or indirectly, like it is through you, Mr. Bobby, and that this information will be passed on to someone who's supposed to be taking care of this type of thing.
Yes.
And
well, this is
like in some cases, I've sent out the books. I've gone and gotten books and sent them out myself.
Yeah. Well, I can say for
this is never. If the money is accepted, it's never supposed to move without the person getting their product, and there shouldn't be any problem with that at all.
That's
right. If that's held up for any reason.
Right. She was very
kind.
Once
the money is transferred.
Right.
So
well, she was very, very kind in what she said, and I'm going to read it. Now, she doesn't want this necessarily to be read. She was very polite. She said, hi. She said, I'm not looking for this to be announced on the show. I just want to make sure that the Produce Justice team is aware. I haven't received the order, and it was 9292, and I'm willing to be patient, but want to confirm that this is being looked into. I've emailed a few times, but haven't received a response. She was very kind, not belligerent or anything. She just wanted, something to happen. And since you mentioned something about help, she's asking for help in receiving her order. So you said what you just said, so hopefully the team has heard that and will get that so that Produce Justice can be real and that her problem can be solved. Now, like I said,
I'll do it directly myself.
Okay.
Once I get the information of where, what to do, just tell me what to do, and I'll talk to somebody, you, Mr. Bobby, and you talk to somebody who talks to somebody who talks to somebody, and that's got to be a guarantee.
Right.
I'm talking about guaranteeing justice.
That's right.
Hey, that's what it's all about.
That's
I don't say nothing that ain't true. I'm going to send you a book and you sent your money. That ain't ever supposed to happen, ever.
That ain't it. Exactly. And see, what the team told me was to tell people to contact at producejustice.com. But whoever is receiving it on the other end, now, I'm doing that, and some people, and this lady here was very kind in doing it. And matter of fact, again, she didn't want this to be public, but we're talking about helping people and producing justice. We got to do this. So thank you, Mr. Fuller, for getting involved and jumping in.
And she gave some numbers out, 99 or something like that.
No, 9292 is the number. It's her number.
Okay,
anyway,
9292.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm gonna write that down.
Okay.
And as soon as I get off the phone today, all right.
Okay.
I'm gonna give somebody what I just got.
Okay. Now I hesitate to do that way because what's going to happen? Other people who are going to have are going to do the same thing and want the same results. And I didn't want to do it like that, but she's been waiting patiently.
I don't either. So
yeah.
We got to be what we say we are. Yeah. Don't accept the money.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Very, very good. Okay, that's done. All right. Let me get this.
But the money is done. 9292.
Yes, sir.
I'll start with that.
Okay.
And I'm going to make a phone call to the only person I know to contact.
Okay.
And I won't name who that person is.
Yeah, right. Okay.
That's okay, but...
All right, thank you, Mr. Fuller. Okay, let me get to another phone call here. Don't have your name, but I'm gonna try this. Okay, you are on with Mr. Fuller. Don't have your name up here. Apologize for that. What is your question for Mr. Fuller?
How you doing, Mr. Bobby? How you doing,
yes,
Mr.
sir.
Fuller? This is Tess.
Oh, okay, Tess. Yeah, didn't have your name up here. Okay, go ahead.
All right, thank you, y'all. Question, Mr. Fuller. I thought about this question after watching a TV show over the weekend. If a sole white individual publicly made the following statement, I take full responsibility for racism, what is the codified procedure of interacting with that individual?
The person told you what?
I take full responsibility for racism.
Did the person ask you to do anything?
Not in particular.
The person made
made a statement.
Yes. Okay, so what the code says is that when a white person takes full responsibility for the existence of racism, that's a pretty tall order. So what you do is say, well, racism is still here. That's what I tell every white person. I say, I'm listening to everything you're saying, but racism is still here. The criteria for a white person in the system of white supremacy is that there is no white supremacy. So that means that white person should have a code just like the same one I'm trying to follow. Replace the system of white supremacy with justice. Why? Because it's the biggest problem on earth. That's it. So, like, I'll just give an illustration. There's a white person, I can't think of his name right now, that I've been around for years. And I've been in the presence of the person, been on the same stage with them when they made presentations and whatnot on many occasions. And this white person is known to admit white supremacy and talk about it all the time. But people have asked me, since you have been right where you could touch the person so many times, what do you say to this person? So if you follow my, the example that I use, a codified example, I said I'd never spoken a word to him. Now, this is a person that's sometime in the news and kind of known for saying, yes, white supremacy is the problem.
Yes.
But I have never spoken a word to this person, and I've been within arm's length or shorter than arm's length in their presence on many occasions in many different places. Last one I think I remember is Fisk University on the campus. And
yes.
He was just standing about a half a foot away from me, almost shoulder to shoulder. I never said anything. And people have asked me, several people have asked me down through the years, what do I think? I say, well, he's doing an excellent job of talking about it. Say, well, what did you ever say to him when you talk to him? I said, when a white person talks about racism, I just listen. And if they have a reputation for making speeches about it and all like that, I still listen.
Yes.
But the criteria according to the code is for a white person in the system of white supremacy, I'll listen to what you have to say, but all I have to say if you ask me to say something is when can I expect it to be done.
That's right. That's right.
Because that's what the code requires me to say to a white person who says they're working on it. Or that they're doing this and they're doing that. I am required, because he's never said anything to me either, okay, but I'm required to say that, sir, you have a reputation for saying you are admitting to white supremacy and that you're working on getting rid of it.
Okay.
Well, I've heard black people say that. So I just say, under the spirit of equality, And since it's a white person doing this kind of talk, we'll talk more when I wake up, because I'll have a whole lot of questions to ask now. You've gotten rid of the system of white supremacy, because that's what I want to hear from a white person.
That's right. Okay.
Talk to me when you have gotten rid of it.
That's right.
Up until then, talk to white people.
Okay. All right. See, we're coming down to the end of the show, so let me get this in here. I still have problems pronouncing it, but anyway, I'll do the best I can. Say Shatat Fact 7 says this. The Laws Act, that's what it's called, the Laws Act, is intended to, quote, prevent and prosecute white supremacy-inspired hate crime and conspiracy to commit white supremacy-inspired hate crime, and to amend Title 18 to expand the scope of the hate crime. Now, this is what Sheila Jackson Lee had presented. Now, this was over a year ago. Of course, they air quotes, yeah, I want to say delayed, really denied it. But anyway, several conservative lawmakers have criticized Jackson Lee on, listen to this, on the language in the bill and said it violates freedom of speech. She said it's her attempt to prevent hate crimes like the shootings in Buffalo, New York, and El Paso, Texas, from beginning again. Now, all this information can be obtained. Here's the web address. Just go to blogtalkradio.com, get the Produce Justice show, and then get on there and get this information if you want it, to see exactly what's going on. Air quotes, are using delay tactics to deny what is right, what is the right thing, or excuse me, justice. They don't want it, so they do this stuff. That is really something else. Mr. Fuller, listen, we are coming down to the end of the show. So first of all, I want to thank you, and I want to thank all the callers for calling in, the Gmailers, and also those in the chat room, dropping the science, some good information for people to get if they want to get it. It's there. You got to want to get it so that you can produce the justice that we need to do to dismantle and eliminate racism. So, Mr. Fuller, in the remaining minute, I'm going to give that bad boy to you. Go ahead, Mr. Fuller.
Well, in connection with what Miss Sheila Jackson Lee is talking about, the code says that every white person who practices anything that has to do with mistreating non-white people based on their color is, by definition, according to the code, a suspected racist. Now, racism itself is a hate crime, the biggest on the planet. The very existence of something called white supremacy makes every white person who does anything to unjustly a non-white person, any act, any word, is a racist suspect, and therefore should be regarded as a criminal until proven different.
Okay, got to leave it there because this show's got to go. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the show. We'll try to do better for next week. Thank you for all the. We made mistakes. Forgive us. Thank you. We'll hopefully see you next week. ProduceJustice.com. Get the books. Everybody have a good day. Thank you, Mr. Fuller.
Thank you, everybody who's listening and everybody who's not. producejustice.com.
Hey, Hotels.com here. Tired of the everyday? We know a hotel that's ready to unwind this weekend. Book hotels with spas in the Hotels.com app. Find your perfect somewhere.